I'm with
Parker
Parker who?
Cross.
Okay. What made you go into ministry?
The Lord. I'll explain. I grew up in youth group and grew up in church, and it was a big part of my testimony. I wasn't expecting to go into it so soon, but he called me here and made it super clear that this was where we were supposed to be, my wife and I. Here we are.
Great answers. How hard has the schooling been? I know you've been in school before getting your undergrad, but how hard has the seminary been so far?
It's different. It's not like other schooling. It's a lot of reading, a lot of independent just learning. It's not really exam, quiz. There are, but it's more heavy on the reading that you do outside of class, the books that you read, which is good because you're learning um, real life applications of like outside of school, past school. Like this is what you're going to be doing, reading books, learning on your own. So they teach you how to do that.
Absolutely, that's great answers. What is the best and worst part of your job here at Osborne Baptist Church?
The best part is working with the students, working with the kids, getting to know you guys, and go to events and evangelize and serve and bring in new students. The worst part is the drama between people that happens inevitably, and then just the boring processes like filling out paperwork or composing emails, which is fine, but it's not as fun.
That leads me to a great question. Um, how do you how do you handle with the conflict in Collide?
No, I'm still learning. I don't know, dude. It's well, you got to look at it from both sides, and obviously the point of what we're doing is we're pointing people to Christ, so we're dealing with conflict in a biblical way, and the way that the Bible tells us to do that is by calling out the sin in the person privately, and if they continue to exist in that, then you call them out in front of somebody else in a loving manner, with the goal of them getting brought back into the church and moving past their sin. It's not always sin that causes the conflict, but it can usually be sourced back to some sort of pride or something like that. And so we'll have conversations one on one with the students, and then we'll involve the parents if they need to be involved. And I'll always run it by people much wiser than I before I have those conversations. And we do it with a lot of grace, knowing that we're not going to do it well, but we do the best we can.
Okay. How do you handle your personal life? How do you balance it out? Your personal life, work life. Like how do you balance life?
So learning that too. It's not too hard here, especially. They have a really healthy work-life balance. Like, they don't expect you to be on your phone all the time over the weekend or anything like that. So it's manageable. It's honestly wonderful, the balance that they've encouraged us to set. It's just me who needs to work through how to balance it and intentionally take time with my wife and my daughter at home to rest and recharge before working on other projects or doing school and things like that. So work in progress.
Um, how do you make how do you make sure teenagers in Collide are being discipled outside of just Wednesdays? Like how do you make sure they can reach out and kind of keep track on on each of them?
It's a great question. A couple of ways that we do that, we're discipling our students in Collide to then go on and make disciples. So our small group leaders, they're encouraged to be at events and be reaching out to be doing events once every quarter or so with people. Whether we execute on those things well is another conversation, but their efforts there to make disciples who go on and make disciples. So we're in students' areas of what they're doing. So we're doing their events, doing their games, doing their plays, FCA, in the schools. But ultimately, our goal is so that we can build up believers who don't, they're not, what they're getting isn't just from the church, like they're being brought up and developed so that they can go out and then go and disciple other people, which is the gospel and that's the design of the early church. So our goal is to make it so that people don't have to come here to learn, that they're going and out and making disciples on their own and not having to bring them here for them to learn it.
Um, what did your friends and family say to you when you went to being dealing with money, and now you're like a youth minister? What did they have to say?
No, they didn't. Some of them didn't think it was a good idea because we were having a baby and it was a pay cut. So they were like, I don't know if this is the right decision time, or it seems like it's a little rushed. But it would between the Lord and I, like it was a yes. It was just an immediate yes. And so to an extent, the opinions of people around, like there was a lot of affirmation, but there was a couple people saying, "Oh, I don't know, maybe you should wait." But ultimately, it was clear that it was a yes, and so largely it's been supportive. Big change, obviously, for us moving into ministry. It's a little different than working a 9 to 5 or going home and not thinking about it anymore, because this is just, it's on your mind a little more, and you're doing work that is for the kingdom. So it's a big change. Most people have been very, very comforting, and even people who were hesitant at the first are now like, all right, this is a good thing that you're doing. Good.
So I see you wearing, pants and a sweatshirt, but I've also seen you in shorts. Is there like a quote unquote dress code or an attire that you have to wear every single day or on stage or going?
Good question. No, there's not. Yeah, people dress. You just look nice. Is really what it is. So they give you room. I mean, one of the big pushes with OVC is we want people to feel comfortable in what they're wearing. We don't want them to feel like they have to wear a suit and tie and feel uncomfortable. They also just aren't very comfortable clothes. So we dress in a way that is nice, but not too nice. So we have to wear dress shirts, slacks, and jeans, not jeans, and a belt to work, and then make people feel uncomfortable when you come in. The goal for us is to look like it's just normal people doing the ministry. And then on stage, like you just look clean. It's kind of an unwritten rule. You just look presentable, but look approachable like a normal person. Like you're not this stuffy guy up on stage. So we try to dress normal.
So two more questions. What does a normal sermon prep look like? Like after a Wednesday night, what does like a normal week kind of look like as you're prepping for the next sermon?
Good question. I'm working through it right now for next week. So before the series starts, I'll have flushed or fleshed. I don't know what it is. One of those two. I think it's fleshed out. What all the topics are going to be and what some of the main ideas from those topics are going to be, so that when the week comes, I don't have to sit there and think, all right, what am I going to talk about this week? I already know ahead of time what I'm going to talk about. At this point, after Wednesday's done, I'm just breaking down those headlines that I want to get out there, that I believe the Lord has put in my heart to teach, and start to really flesh out what that looks like. So after Wednesday, do some kind of follow up from the night, and then on Thursday, I'll sketch out the majority of the message. Do a lot of research, read through the what we're teaching on, get the context on it beforehand, but then dive into even more in depth on that Thursday. And we have a bunch of commentaries that Kevin, the old guy who, not the old guy, the former guy, he's a little old guy now. The former guy who was the head of the group has left, that I can read through, and they're really helpful for understanding what the passage means, and then take some time. It's usually a couple hours just writing out the message and what we need to get across, just for like a 20-25 minute message, trying to make it applicable but also true, and convicting but also encouraging. So different passages are different and mean different things. So there's different approaches to each one. But the usual process is Thursday, sketch the whole thing out. Mondays, you kind of refine it, and then I'll practice it. And then on Tuesdays, sometimes I'll practice it again. But at that point, I'll get the outline together, get the questions together for a small group. And then Wednesday, I'll practice it again, and then teach it on Wednesday night.
Okay, so last question. I know you got your undergrad at State and App, and you're getting your master's at Southeastern. So do you have to get all that schooling? Like, do you have to go to school? Do you have to get a degree, or is it something you can just kind of work your way towards getting an internship and whatnot?
You don't have to go to school. Jesus didn't go to school for this. Like they would at the time, that they would go through these schoolings, that they would know the Old Testament, but it's not a requirement. Nowhere in the Bible does it say you must get a seminary degree to be a pastor and teach the Bible. You don't have to. It's encouraged, because what I'm doing right now, I'm going through seminary and I'm learning about the books of the Old Testament, the context of those books in the New Testament. I learn Hebrew. You're learning preaching and pastoral ministry. You're learning how to exposit scripture, and learning about the hermeneutics of different passages and what they mean and how they apply. So it's a really cool opportunity to learn everything, but you do not have to by any means go through that process. It's encouraged, but it's not a requirement. Most people do, because it is really helpful, and when you go through school, you're much better off as a result. But you could um, not go to school and still be.
Well, thank you for answering my questions.
Hey man, it was great. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Good to be here.